The daughter of a well-known military man fell in love with a visual artist, but her father refused to accept their relationship. What the father did to him will shock you. Follow me, and I'll tell you more of the story. If you are just joining this channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get more updates from us. The movie begins at an NYSC training camp where a guy named Temi and his friend noticed a beautiful lady named Onome stepping out of her car with an escort. Temi admired her, commenting that God is the perfect artist. His friend warned him to stay away from her because she was the general's daughter. However, Temi didn't listen and kept admiring her deeply. After some time, they completed their training and were dismissed. Later, they went to the canteen to eat. Temi's friend was sitting there, imagining himself kissing Onome. Temi distracted him by touching him, snapping him out of his daydream. His friend admitted his imagination, and Temi laughed because it was the same person who had warned him to avoid Onome, yet now he seemed to like her too. They decided to bet on who would get her number first, with the loser owing the winner 10,000 naira. Temi's friend boldly approached Onome, but was embarrassed when she ignored him and changed her table. Frustrated, he returned to Temi, calling her mannerless. Temi then tried his luck. He approached Onome and showed her a painting he had made of her while she was eating. Onome liked it, as did her friends, and she eventually gave Temi her contact details. Months later, they had finished their youth service and taken group pictures. Surprisingly, Temi and Onome had started dating, a relationship no one thought possible at first. After graduating, Onome encouraged Temi during a phone call, as his business wasn't going well. They also planned for him to meet her father. The next day, at Onome's house, her father's friend introduced his son to her. Onome immediately recognized him as her ex-boyfriend, who had cheated on her with her flatmate. Furious, she dragged him into the kitchen, shouted at him, and warned him to stay away from her. He tried to plead, but she walked out on him. Meanwhile, Temi's friends discouraged him from meeting Onome's father, calling it dangerous and reminding him he didn't have a stable job. Temi refused to listen, saying he had to face it. He called a female friend for advice, but she promised to get back to him later. A few days later, Onome took Temi to meet her father. After exchanging pleasantries, she left to bring a drink. Her father asked Temi to sit and began questioning him about his job and income. Nervous, Temi explained he was a visual artist earning an average of 50,000 naira daily, though it could go up to 100,000 on good days. The general was unimpressed, pointing out that Temi's earnings weren't even close to his daughter's monthly allowance. He offered Temi 5 million naira to leave Onome. Shocked, Temi refused the offer. The general then warned him to think carefully, adding that he could end a life for his daughter's sake. When Onome returned with the drink, Temi quickly excused himself, leaving her puzzled. At home, Temi told his friends what had happened. One of them criticized him for not taking the money, saying love wouldn't feed him. Temi's female friend defended him, saying he did the right thing. The next day, Onome confided in her friend about Temi. Her friend asked if her father liked him, but Onome wasn't sure. Her friend tried to discourage her, suggesting that Temi might only want her money. Onome clarified that she had offered Temi money several times, but he always refused, saying, "Your money is your money. My money is our money." Onome also mentioned that Temi had never pressured her for sex and was hardworking and decent. Her friend was impressed and changed her opinion about him. Later, Onome escorted her friend outside and saw her ex-boyfriend with her father. Her friend greeted them, and her father announced that the young man was asking for Onome's hand in marriage. Angry, Onome excused herself and left with her friend, who asked what was wrong. Onome explained that she had a history with the man and wasn't ready to talk about it. The next day, Onome visited Temi at his house. Temi's friend offered her a drink, which she accepted. They all joked and laughed together. After some time, Temi's friend left, but suddenly, Onome began experiencing severe abdominal pain. She groaned in agony, and Temi panicked, shouting for his friend to come back. When his friend returned, he asked what was wrong, but Temi, overwhelmed with fear, kept yelling that they needed to take her to the hospital. Instead of acting promptly, his friend kept asking unnecessary questions. Onome eventually passed out, and Temi cried bitterly, unsure of what to do. His friend, showing little concern, remarked that she was the general's daughter. In fear of the potential consequences, they decided to take her to Temi's car and left her by the roadside, terrified of what her father would do if he found out. After abandoning her, they rushed back to Temi's house, packed a few belongings, and fled. The next morning, Onome's father called her friend to ask if she had seen her. Her friend said Onome hadn't visited her place and suggested that she might be at her boyfriend's house. When he asked for the address, she admitted she didn't know it and advised him to ask Onome's driver, who had likely taken her there. The general thanked her and ended the call. That same day, the general sent his men to Temi's house to look for him. Although they didn't find him, they discovered Onome's phone. Upon returning, the men handed the phone to the general, who became furious. He vowed that once he caught Temi, he would make him regret being born. Meanwhile, Temi's picture had gone viral on the internet, with accusations that he had kidnapped Onome. His friend showed him the photos, causing Temi to panic. He insisted he hadn't kidnapped her and suggested they take her body to the general to clear his name. His friend directed him to where Onome had been left, and Temi left with his female friend, Ife, to retrieve her. On their way, the police stopped their car, but Ife, quick thinking, told them Temi had a dangerous, contagious disease and advised them not to come close. The officers, scared, let them go. When Temi arrived at the spot where they had left Onome, she was no longer there. He broke down in tears. Ife comforted him and fed him. As she prepared to leave, Temi thanked her for all her help. Ife, secretly in love with him, whispered to herself, "If only he knew how much I love him." That same evening, the general's friend visited and, angered by the situation, vowed to find Temi. He ordered the general's men to bring Temi to him by the next morning. Later that night, Temi and his two friends met near an uncompleted building. One of the friends mentioned knowing someone who could help Temi get a passport to escape to Ghana. As this friend left to fetch the contact, a stranger recognized Temi as the wanted man and called the general. When the friend returned with the contact, Temi was nowhere to be found. Furious, the contact revealed that they had planned to turn Temi over to the general for the 3 million naira reward. Shockingly, the friend admitted that he had drugged Onome's drink that day at Temi's house, causing her severe reaction. Temi, unaware of the betrayal, had already fled. Along the way, he got injured. At a pharmacy, a lady recognized him from the wanted posters and attempted to call the general, but Temi escaped. While on the run, Temi saw his face on posters everywhere and broke down. He then received a call from Ife, who informed him that a body matching Onome's description had been found in Festac and taken to the mortuary. Temi decided to check it out. Unfortunately, as Temi and Ife left the mortuary, they were ambushed by the general's men. Temi was captured, and Ife panicked, shouting for help. Before being taken away, Temi begged Ife to call Deji, one of their mutual friends. Later that night, Deji was on the phone with someone, gloating about his involvement in the plot against Onome. He revealed that he was pleased with how things were unfolding. Meanwhile, at the general's base, Temi was beaten mercilessly. The general demanded to know where his daughter was, but Temi, unaware of her whereabouts, insisted he didn't know. In a surprising twist, Onome was alive. An old man had found her unconscious by the roadside and taken her to his village. He managed to save her life. When Onome learned she had been poisoned, she initially suspected Temi. However, she later begged the old man to take her back home, and he agreed. Ife, who had overheard Deji's confession, went to the general with proof that Deji and one of his accomplices had plotted against Onome. The general immediately ordered his men to stop hurting Temi. Just then, they heard Onome's voice. The general rushed outside to find her standing with the old man who had saved her. To his astonishment, the old man recognized the general, revealing that he had saved the general's life during the war. Grateful, the general promised to reward the old man generously. Deji and his accomplices were soon apprehended, and Temi was exonerated of all accusations. The next morning, Onome came downstairs and was shocked to see Temi badly injured as the general's men were cleaning him up. Temi, equally stunned, thought she was dead. Overwhelmed with relief, they hugged each other passionately. Her father came into the room, and Onome thanked him for sparing Temi. Later that day, Temi and Ife sat down to discuss Deji's betrayal. They expressed their deep disappointment over his actions. During the conversation, they mentioned that Onome's father had given them 3 million naira as a gesture of goodwill. However, Temi expressed his intention to return the money, feeling it was unnecessary. Ife disagreed, joking that they needed the money. The two shared a laugh and lightheartedly teased each other. That evening, Temi and Ife went to confront Deji. During their visit, Ife opened up about her feelings for Temi, admitting she had loved him for a long time. Despite her confession, she assured him that she supported his relationship with Onome and wanted him to be happy. She hugged him tightly and cried, finding closure. The next day, Temi proposed to Onome, and she joyfully accepted. As they celebrated the moment, her father came downstairs and expressed his happiness for the couple. They hugged each other warmly, marking the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. And that's the end of the story, guys. The lesson here is clear. Evil deeds, especially betrayal, never pay off. Always cherish and remain loyal to your close friends. Thank you for following this journey with us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more updates. See you in our next story.